Well, I wasn't going to ask that because I didn't think I was important enough, but then you said something with the last gentleman talking about applied kinesiology and the person before that talking about the eye things. So with all due respect, and I greatly appreciate your teachings and they've helped me enormously, however.
Don't laugh, that wasn't funny.
So I've had a little anatomy and physiology training, and those streams, specks in the eyes, the cells behind the vitreous humor of the eye slough off, and you see them as floaters.
Well, that's an entirely different thing than he is talking about. He's not talking about floaters on his eyeballs.
Well, that was kind of my question, is how does a person distinguish between,
floaters look like this. What he's seeing are grids. They're straight lines.
Okay. That's not what I interpreted from his.
Different shapes, but it's
kind of squiggly like threads?
Well, okay. when you get a squiggly on your eyeball, and you look over there, it's there. And you look over there, and it's there.
Right.
You look over there, and it shows up. And you look over there, and it shows up. And you look over there, and it shows up.
Okay.
Quite different.
So it just wasn't clear to me if he was describing a pathological condition or
brain tumor.
That he was seeing something at another level of perception. So that wasn't clear. And
it's a good distinction, and we are appreciating it.
Okay. Yeah, so like I told my wife, I said my BS-ometer went off, and now I wasn't going to ask a question, and now I have to ask about that. And then with regards to the gentleman that was talking about applied kinesiology, you said it measures your belief about a substance. But what about people who had no particular beliefs about substances that were exposed to them, like asbestos or mercury or radiation? Like, for example, I grew up in a house that I'm not sure about this, but I believe had radon in the basement because both my parents died of a primary bone cancer, which would be very unusual for two people of different families. So if somebody's exposed to something like that and they have no belief about it, how could it be harmful? In other words, what I'm saying is substances do have characteristics. They do have impact on us.
When you drink Clorox, it's going to have an effect on your physical body, regardless of what you are believing about it.
Correct.
We are not in any disagreement with you at all about that.
Okay.
But we also want to present in a way that is semi-reasonable to you, that if life has given you a desire to live and be healthy and hearty, which it does for everyone. So you have that in your vortex, and you have not been trained by society to have a stiff upper lip or to ignore your emotions, but instead you are one who has reached for the best feeling thought, and you've managed to be an emotional being, and you've managed to guide your thoughts. You would not, under those vibrational conditions, and everything we've been talking about here today is about tuning yourself to the frequency of that broader knowing, so that the behavior that you are then offering, even something as simple as, here's the best way of describing this, and it will make sense to you as it unfolds. So let's say that you have brought yourself into vibrational alignment. You've been doing this energy work. You want to feel the power of your positive emotion, and so you've been reaching to do so. And as a result, you're what we describe as tuned in, tapped in, turned on. So you're intuitive, you're flexible, you're feeling good, and now you're driving in traffic, and because you're up to speed with who you are, so the wholeness of who you are is present. Your life is richer, and anything that's meaningful, you have more awareness of. So you're good in traffic. You intuitively know that guy is going to do something, even though he hasn't started the motion of it. And so you're just more flexible and intuitive about guiding yourself. And so when you go to that house that has something toxic within it, you would feel an aversion to it, not an attraction to it. You wouldn't put up with it. In the same way that people put up with all kinds of negative emotion, people put up with all kinds of exposure to all kinds of things that are not beneficial to them. And so we're not for a moment suggesting that there are not toxic things that when they get on you are going to be detrimental. But we are always saying that there is a level of, our friend wanted to call it guidance, we want to call it intuitive alignment that would prevent you from being in those situations if you were really in a place of believing that you can guide your own reality. Most people don't believe it. Things happen to all of you all the time. Esther and Barbara are standing at the counter, and Esther said the word check, and at the same moment her eyes were drawn to the word check on a sign. And that's not meaningful. It just means that anything that is active in her vibration, her inner being, is going to show her another piece of it. And you have those kinds of experiences all day, every day, where that alignment with that broader perspective serves you. So, now do you want to go deeper into the subject of kinesiology?
Well, not necessarily. I guess my question just had to do with, you said somebody tests weak for white sugar and not for something else because maybe the tester's belief of it.
Well, all of that plays a much bigger role in everything than any of you want to believe.
Right.
You influence one another hugely.
Yeah.
In the same way that a doctor's belief in his cure can make the difference between whether someone recovers or not. In other words, all of those things are happening because of that. Mm-hmm. The vibrational grid is the most significant thing. In the same way that we were talking with our friend about attracting the partner that he wants, and how by focusing on deliberately creating this emotional grid and then expecting the universe and law of attraction to fill it in, but more important, expecting himself to be in a place where he intuitively makes the right moves, goes to the right places, follows the impulses that come for a sure rendezvous with all of the aspects of the partner that he's looking for. The same thing happens with food. In other words, as you create this emotional grid, so that, and your intention is to be healthy and hearty and to feel good and have longevity and to look good, and so there are all of these intentions that you've put there that are viable and are already framed up. So as you now are paying more attention to your emotions and are more in alignment with that, in the same way that his partner is going to fill in, so is the impulse of what to eat to fill in. And the thing that we so want to say is that for one person, the appropriate food that fills in could be entirely different than the appropriate food that fills in for another. Because scientists, if they've proven anything about anatomy, is that they are very different configurations of what's going on with different people. In other words, people around this planet do not eat the same diets, and many of them are thriving on these very diverse diets. Scientists and doctors have not even begun to figure out what's going on with food.
So what happens when genuinely well-intentioned scientists do studies that are designed to help figure out these are things that we know are life-supporting, these are things that maybe are life-supporting, maybe not. We just want to know the truth. And that's really, for me, a strong dynamic. It's, I don't care about the test. I just want to know the truth. And I've had lots of applied kinesiology. Some people do it really well, and I feel like I'm getting the truth. Other people, I feel like they're trying to sell me a product, and that their belief about needing to sell that product influences the test. But I don't care what the truth is. I just want to know, is this substance, say, universally good, universally bad, or could go either way, depending. Radiation, I'm going to say, is pretty universally bad for people. But, maybe a high protein diet's good for one person and a low protein diet's better for another person. That's fine. But, can't we figure out some base of, this is what we know for sure, and this is kind of customizable depending on the person.
But those are good words, and that is happening, and there is a lot of wonderful work that's being done, and there are a lot of wonderful discoveries that are being made, and individuals, however, and this is the if factor that we were speaking of earlier that sort of sets you out of balance. no matter how wonderful it is that someone has achieved or accomplished or discovered, someone out of the vortex is not going to make their way to it. And even if they do, it's not going to have the same beneficial effect that it would have on them when they consume it as if they were in the vortex. This is the missing piece that scientists so often are leaving out of their studies that we would like them to put in. In other words, not only is it possible to find the food stuffs that are the basis of all chemicals, because there's a lot of that. In other words, there are many things that everyone understands are good for the physical anatomy. But the factor that is off is that someone under stress consuming it consumes it differently, rendezvous with different components within it. The same food gives different things to different people who are vibrationally extracting different things from it. In the same way that you could walk into a party as one person and have the best time of your life because of the vibration of your attraction, and someone else could walk into the same party and have a miserable time. It's not the party, it's your point of attraction. And the exact thing happens with everything, especially with food. Also, it's interesting that food is different in its combinations, in its vibrational combinations. If you accept the vibration of food, start again. Natural foods have more similar vibrations, and they combine and blend together in beneficial ways. The more food is processed, and the more chemicals that are applied to it, the more specifically unique it is, and the less ability that it has to blend with other things. And so that's really the dynamic that's going on that's so screwy in your world today, is that people are trying to blend things together that are vibrationally not compatible, even though their logic tells them that it should, and their taste even tells them that it does. It's not rendezvous. And then when you put those different foods with all of those potential clashes or points of alignment, and then you bring different people together with different degrees of their alignment, it's no wonder that there are so many different results that come from what seem to be sort of similar studies.
Yeah, sounds like we're doomed at this point.
You're not doomed. You're not doomed at all. You're still thriving in spite of all of it, because the dominant effect of well-being still carries on. It's just that when people are looking for utopia in something, we just want them to understand that the basis of their utopia has to be their own understanding and working of their own vibrational grid, and then everything else will fall into place. So then, to add to it a little more confusion, the processing of the food makes a difference. The way it's cooked, microwaving food completely changes the vibrational structure of it. It's not even the same, and so here it was in all of its different combinations, and now you're adding this to it. Freezing food changes the dynamics of it. If it goes into the point where it's nearly spoiling, it changes the dynamics of it. So there are all kinds of combinations of things. So don't let it make you feel confused, because in the same way you walk this planet with billions of other people, and the potential for so many things is there, the basis of your experience and the basis of your point of attraction means that you're going to be inspired to. That's why the beasts of your planet pretty much know what they want. You give an animal from the wild something that has been processed, it won't eat it unless it is starving. In other words, it will turn up its nose at the most delectable things that you put before it, because it innately senses through its interpretive smeller that there is something amiss in this food. You've seen it, haven't you? Even with your domestic animals. And so don't worry about your food, but we do want you to accept that there is a vibrational basis, that as you become more intuitively in sync, as you are, with who you are and how you want to feel, just talking about why you want to eat good food. I want to find good diet because. And as you get in touch with why you want what you want, I want energy, and I want stamina, and I want longevity, and I want thriving. As you keep amplifying and looking for those emotions, not just relative to food, but relative to all kinds of things. And then you follow your inspiration. And many of these scientists are doing exactly that. They're following a sort of inspiration. They're just baffled at why what they've been inspired to isn't the world cure that they really expect that it might be. And the reason that it isn't is because they can't control the rendezvous points of law of attraction of the diverse culture that are in various stages of alignment with who they are.